Hey there, creator. So you want to learn a bit about the basics of writing fiction. Doesn't matter if you are attempting your first short story or novel, or you are a content creator, or a copywriter. You need to basically know the ins and outs of these things, or at least the bare minimum basics. Because if you are creating videos, for instance, you need to know how to draw in a reader, to hook them in your videos, so to speak. So I'm going to cover some 10 basic skills. There are other videos dive much deeper into this. I've got my own videos as well, many more to come, some workshops, mastermind, my own books, Shadows in Ink, Volume 1, 2, 3 is coming soon, The Psychology of Horror Fiction. But whether you're writing horror or just a thriller, suspense, supernatural, dark fiction, call it what you will, these basics are still important. Before we continue, let me just remind you that this is the House of Shadows in Ink on YouTube. We focus on books, movies, games, whether it's board games, physical games, comic books, and with an eye on the creator, of course. So whether you're a fan or creator of all these wonderful and scary things, this is the place to be. This is, of course, one of my creator videos. There's a whole bunch of other ones, more coming. So subscribe, check out the channel, check out our playlists, and introduce yourself. Just pop into the comments and let us know who you are. So let's begin with what I normally ask my students. What is the end that you have in mind? What is your goal? How do you want to make the reader feel? Do you want to shock them, make them cry, emotional, whatever? Is it a story about friendship, love, forgiveness, revenge? Even a horror story needs emotion. You need to care about the character. But we'll get to characters in a bit. So first, decide on your ending. What kind of story is this really? Without the like this happens and that happens, in the end, the reader's going to realize, okay, it's about forgiving yourself for past mistakes and moving on, facing your demons, which could be like an addiction or something. And once you know that ending, and this is whether you're a plotter or a pantser. So plotter, you plan out everything. Pantser, you just sit down and write. It's good to know where you're going. And if you plot, you don't want to plot too much because that leads to a boring journey as you write. It makes the actual writing part the most boring part of it all, unfortunately. So this gives you some creative freedom at least to make different moves, but at least you know where you're going. So once you know this, you know what kind of character you're going to need for your story. What strengths and weaknesses your character needs, what kind of backstory, and this is very important. Like, why are they the way that they are right now at the beginning of your story? What happened? A lot of that is not even going to be shown or told in your story, but you need to know that because you need to treat these characters like they are real people. And that's the thing, what makes them real. Flaws, weaknesses, strengths, what are their wants, what are their desires, what do they want to get out of everything they're attempting in this book? Why don't they just give up? Okay, so what drives them? What is their biggest fear? What is the main thing that could set them back, hold them back, defeat them? And then, of course, your antagonist pretty much needs to want the opposite thing. But even your antagonist needs a backstory. What makes them that way? Why are they doing these things? The best antagonists are not bad guys just because they want to be. Why are they doing that? Why are they hurting other people? Whatever. You need to create characters that we care for. The next one is voice. So voice is very difficult actually to kind of explain, but let's say now when you're writing narrative, it's the actual words that you choose, how it sounds when you read it. If you go pick up a book from your favorite author, when you start reading, even if we give you a piece of text that you're not familiar with, you might pick up on the style of that specific author. Oh, this is my favorite author. This is Stephen King, whoever. And that comes with years of writing and lots of reading. So it's like something that you fine tune. It is part of who you are, your backstory, the books that you've read, and every story that you've written so far. And for a voice to really come across, you need to go through all the basics and know stuff about punctuation, spelling, grammar, all of those things that go into it. And we'll get to that in a bit. But for the very basics of voice, you need to write clearly, not confuse the writer, proper sentence like subject, verb, object, that kind of stuff. Don't have run-on sentences. Know a few of the basics of punctuation and dialogue and sentence structure. You don't even know have to know what they're called. Like, this is a verb and this is whatever tense. Eventually, and especially if you read a lot, you will just, it'll sound wrong. And I always say, read your stuff out loud or have someone read it to you. You'll immediately pick up on it, because your ears are the best trained tool that you have. You've been listening to people talk since you were a baby. So it's much easier for your ear to catch something that's wrong than, let's say, just editing with your eyes, going through the words. So let's talk about structure. Every story has a structure. There are various ones, but the most common ones are just beginning, middle, and end. So if you have a story that basically says, we went to the mountain and killed a deer, that's not a story. That's just the beginning and the end. We went up to the mountain, we saw an alien spaceship, and we killed the alien at the end and survived. That's a beginning, middle, and end. Stupid example, but you get it. And then you lengthen them. And there are certain things that a beginning needs. You need to establish the tone of your story. Like, this is a sci-fi story, this is a horror story, psychological thriller. You need to establish the setting, your characters. You need to introduce them. We get to know them. In the middle, we'll get to the middle in a bit, but things need to happen there. Things need to escalate. We need to see the hero fail a few times. And at the end, of course, you have the climax and everything that happens there. But we'll get to that. Beginning also includes the inciting incident. So we get to know the character, we see what their daily life is like, and then something happens. Something plummets their life into a different direction. It can be someone who dies, or they receive a mysterious letter, or they win the lotto, they buy a haunted mansion, that kind of thing. There needs to be a big change that happens that sets them on the course that they are now on. This can be an actual choice that they make, or something that happens to them. Now, very important, don't let everything just happen to your character in the book. They need to make their own actions and reap the rewards, good and bad, of their own actions. Now, before we get to the middle and end, let's talk about dialogue. Dialogue, very important. It is, again, something that you need to practice. It is not the same as listening to people talk. People talk weird. We stumble over our words a lot. We interrupt each other. We stop mid-sentence and just, like I'm doing now, mess it up and then just start over again. Dialogue needs to be much clearer, to the point, move the story along much faster, reveal the character of the people who are talking, reveal things like maybe their social status, their upbringing, where they're from, how they treat other people, actions and reactions. Dialogue is a very intricate, detailed subject to learn. So I believe there's one video out already. I have about 2 or 3 more coming just on dialogue. So definitely check that out. Punctuation. I have a video about basic punctuation. For instance, your best friend is he said or she said, and it's comma. So what are we doing? Question mark. He said. The H is lowercase, even though your question ended on a question mark. A lot of people will put a capital H there for he said, which is wrong. Just these basics of punctuation in dialogue that you need to learn. Avoid he said excitedly. Rather have your sentence, the actual dialogue, be exciting words instead of he said excitedly. So again, many things to go in with dialogue. Punctuation, when to use colon, semicolon. You'd actually want to avoid colons, especially in fiction. Semicolons, use it sparingly, and you need to follow a semicolon with a full sentence. Subject, verb, object. If you're writing a list, you use commas unless one of the aspects uses a comma, then you need semicolons in between all the list subjects. I hope that makes sense. Again, you can just ask questions in the comments if there's anything you want me to explain, or Google it. If you have any other questions, I'll keep an eye on this video and get back to you. So now we reach the middle of the story. This is, like I said, things need to pick up pace. Dead bodies, more action, more your hero trying to fix things, facing the antagonist, the bad guy for the first time, failing, trying harder. A lot of authors struggle with the middle part because not a lot happens. They're too focused on the end. You need to throw a bunch of other obstacles in the way of your protagonist. There needs to be an arc. So the only way your protagonist is going to go through this arc of becoming a better person, better or stronger warrior, whatever. They're going through training in this middle part. They need to get ready for what's coming at the end. And the only way you can do that is by throwing obstacles in their way, and they have to overcome it. They fail, they stand back up. They get motivation or insight from a friend, a wise old storyteller, old boss, whatever. Those tropes of just people around you that you surround yourself with, teaching you something, or you learn a lesson and you realize something and you apply that or overcome that fear so that you can face the demon. An old example would be overcome the fear of fire to jump through or go into this burning building to save whoever is on the inside. So increased danger, increased pacing. By this time, we really need to care about the character, and we're really worried that they're not going to survive. The option of them dying should actually be on the table. In a movie, this is the part where it looks like everyone is failing, everyone's going to die, and you're wondering, like, how are they going to get out of this? And that's normally when you get into your end with the climax. And the climax, again, like ups and downs. Are they going to make it? Will he or they be able to put their differences aside and work together? And then, of course, the denouement after the battle. What happens to your characters? What did they learn? This is that ending that you were thinking about at the beginning. This is the promise that you made to the readers. Like, there's going to be this massive showdown. The characters are going to live happily ever after, whatever. But again, this is where you can put in some twists. You can have a good ending where they win, but it's also a sad ending because they lost the love of their life, or they are handicapped, paralyzed perhaps, and which might be the biggest fear your protagonist has. So it's like a bittersweet ending. So again, whatever you decided there at the beginning, it can change, of course, but you need to make a promise at the beginning of the book to your reader and deliver it there at the end. So let's just go through these again. You have your ending in mind, which helps you develop your characters. You have your voice, the structure of the story, which has your beginning, middle, and end. Your inciting incident is there at the beginning as well. Strong dialogue, good punctuation. And even if you're just writing for, let's say, yourself, or no one is going to see this, these are good skills to have. Eventually, you might need to show it to someone. The opportunity comes along to send something in to an editor, a publisher, a film producer, and they're asking for a screenplay. And you need to know how to write good fiction, proper layout, formatting, punctuation, spelling, all that stuff. And then you need to be able to deliver. And then, of course, our middle and the end of your story. After that, there's a whole different list of stuff to go through once you're done writing. But this is the basics, just an introduction to fiction writing. Again, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below, subscribe, all that stuff. But definitely keep an eye out on this channel. I'm going to be creating a lot more of these videos. Why? I used to be a teacher, and this is what I love doing. A lot of people paid it forward when I started out, and now I'm just doing the exact same. Thanks, creator. See you around.